Hey everyone. Well, I don't know if I should say everyone. I don't think there's many people actually here. But yeah, this is Season 23, Master I Mekk-Knight Crusadia. Yet again. Today is the 5th of November, so 5 days-ish to climb. I actually reached earlier, but I just was too lazy to record. But now I'm fresh and ready to go, so I wanted to get this video out just to give you a quick update on basically the deck that I played and how I found the meta as always. But before I talk about the rank climb, let's talk about Duelist Cup. So this is the Duelist Cup that just concluded, the October one. 16,000 points, 16.5k points I guess, and my rank was 3,901. So yeah, I mean, my goal as always is to just finish in the top 10k for the icon and the title. I'll never use the icon, obviously. Look, I mean, it's pretty ugly, right? I mean, okay, these are all extremely good players. I really respect them, but the DC Cup icon is pretty ugly, right? So, when I climb, I'm anonymous nowadays, but then I'll switch back to Astrum as my icon. So I'll never use the DC Cup icon, but it's just the DC icon. But it's just the completionist in me trying to collect, just as a sign that, just as a mark of sort of my accomplishments playing this game, I guess, with Mekk-Knight Crusadia. It's just a way of marking my progress and just ensuring that I'm keeping up with the meta and able to just compete with increasingly stronger decks and duelists. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this finish. It's about rank 4,000. I only played mostly the first day and a little bit on the second day. And the first day I also didn't play as much as I usually did because I'm pretty burnt out by the Duelist Cup, honestly. It's just way too frequent. And of course now they finally have an incentive for people to grind, so you see all these very skilled players just really pushing for the top, right? But for me, Mekk-Knight Crusadia's ceiling is, I still think I can probably finish top 1k if I really tried. But I'm just so burnt out by the format. It's ridiculous. Konami don't care about our health, so that's why they make us grind for 72 hours. I don't want to do that. So I'm happy with just a top 10k finish, and in this case a top 5k finish, top 4k finish. So Mekk-Knight Crusadia does it again. So yeah, this is just what I did, and I didn't make a video for this because I played the exact same list. So let me just show you, let me just go back here now. So yeah, it's the exact same list as my Duelist Cup one. Actually, you can see it if you don't believe me. Yeah, Duelist Cup. Yeah, this is the exact same list you'll see on Master Duel Meta, and this is the list that I'll be talking about here. So yeah, this is Master 1. Okay, so this is the list. I hope this video is a lot shorter than the previous ones because honestly it's mostly the same, right? This is still Small World Legacy. There are some changes, but the core concept is pretty much still the same, and you can find the Small World network map either on the MDM post, or I'll just put it in the description as well of this video, so you can check out the Small World network map. Thanks again to XXIL. Brilliant page, that absolutely brilliant. Okay, but this list is pretty much the same. The biggest change is purely experimental, is that I have now 3 World Legacies memory instead of 3 World Legacy succession. Right, World Legacy succession at 3 was basically the hallmark of the previous deck list. Now I've switched to 3 memory and 1 succession. Why? So yeah, you can read this on the MDM post as well, but just to say, one of Crusadia's biggest problems is the reliance on the normal summon, right? So you normal summon Maximus, you go into Magus, and if you get impermed, let's say you're going for the OTK, and you don't have Draco, you can't get Maximus back, GG. So it's really reliant on that one route through the main link climb. Big problem. This problem is actually exacerbated by this list because of the reliance on Gearsu, right? Because this is all about Gearsu. Small World Legacy is all about getting Gearsu out because Gearsu is our circular, our cheese killer. But he's a lot worse because he's vulnerable to Ash, Imperm, Valor, you call it. Whereas Cheese Killer activates in hand, so you can't You can't ash it because it sends to graveyard for a cost, and you can't imperm. Well, you can't imperm the initial sort of summon. You can imperm its search, but anyway, it's going to go into Alan Burton and you just search again. So like, you know, they're just so much more resilient, whereas we are really reliant on Girsu resolving. And I read in one of the Master 1 posts from this season, November, so the last 4 days, I read one of the posts. Someone said like the meta has hard shifted into a hand trap heavy format, away from the board breaker heavy format. And I have to say, I agree. I agree with that sentiment. I think, you know, I was failing to resolve Girsu a lot more often this season than I did in October. And whether that's because of Arise Heart's release, I don't know. But, you know, I was telling people, like, you know, don't use the same list after Arise Heart comes out. But actually, I did pretty much use the same list. You know, but the main difference is just World Legacy memory, right? Because, okay, so just talk about it. So hand traps are really prevalent now. Ash on Girsu is not so bad, but then when you get ashed with Girsu, you need to have a Mekk-Knight or a World Legacy card in hand, or else you just don't get the search with Morningstar, because you won't be able to go into Lib, right? If you get impermed on Girsu, you're literally just left with Girsu on the board. So it's really devastating, and it's on the same level as, I guess, Branded Fusion getting ashed. Although obviously the way Branded works around that is to have a lot of extenders. You know, it's got polymerization in deck that you can just sort of extend through. We don't have those tools, so the problem is, yeah, if Girsu gets impermed, the turn's over, and you're just left with one Girsu sitting there, and then you probably have, like, I don't know, Mekk-Knights in hand, and then you're just hoping that you also have hand traps in hand, so you can actually sort of slow them down on turn 2 and survive, and then go on turn 3. But more likely than not, you just lose if Girsu gets impermed. And now, like, everybody's just playing the standard hand trap package a lot more often. 3 Maxi, 3 Ash, and 3 imperm, right? It's a big problem. Even Pearly, that wasn't playing this package before, now I'm seeing it basically in every single Pearly deck that I've faced. Or at least a lot more than before. So because of all the hand traps flying around, you know, I just keep going back to the idea of Crusadia needing an E-Tele. And I never thought about this, but I guess mechs actually need an E-Tele as well. But then mechs do have an E-Tele. World Legacy's memory, right? This is the Mekk-Knight E-Tele, emergency teleport, in case you didn't know. So the problem with this E-Tele, as everybody knows, is that it just Xenolocks in a self-cucking way, because Girsu's token is called a World Legacy token. It's not a Mekk-Knight token. So once you use World Legacy's memory, you can't summon Girsu's token, right? Everybody knows this. I'm just stating it again because the Mekk-Knights do have an E-Tele, and E-Tele is, in my opinion, one of the things that Crusadia has always lacked and would benefit a lot from. But this E-Tele is Xenolocks, and it's a bit it is indeed self-cucking in a big way, actually, because, you know, it literally prevents your main starter from realizing its full value, as compared to a cheese cooler, for example, that just doesn't suffer from anything. So it really makes you wonder why cheese killer has been at 3 the whole time while Girsu has been at 1. Now I know Girsu's been used in more degenerate combos, but that's not Girsu's fault, right? You know, Konami should have made Girsu more restricted to the World Legacy archetype, you know, not allowing it to be abused, but then, you know, allow it to work with World Legacy's memory so that actually we raise our ceiling a little bit here. But okay, that's a side point. Okay, so yeah, this is the E-Tele of World Legacy, and no matter how you slice it, this is really actually what we need, especially going first, because of the hand trap festival that's going on right now. So yeah, you know, I wrote in the MDM post, you know, every now and then, okay, that's just a funny story, but every now and then I legitimately put E-Tele into my deck. Like, just open up the deck and I just put E-Tele in here, and then I stare at the list and I try and think of how I can make E-Tele work. And then I just sigh and I remind myself that you can't special summon Maximus from the deck with E-Tele because he's one level too high. You know, it's a great tragedy. It's a grave injustice. So I have even experimented with like putting Ghost Ogre in here just to have like one Ghost Ogre, one E-Tele target, just any sort of way to be able to use E-Tele so that if the Crusadia normal summon gets cucked, or at least, gets hit by something like an Imperm or an Ash not removed, you can E-Tele a second body on the field and continue. It's a big problem for Crusadia all these years. And the Mekk-Knights have that solution. But, the more I thought about it, I guess, so obviously I've always mainly played this at like 1 or 2, right? I never ever really played it at 3 before because I was just so afraid of the Xenolock. But the more I thought about it, it's just like, maybe it's just better to fully embrace the Xenolock and try to just have a spare Mekk-Knight or World Legacy card in your hand for the Morningstar discard. So then you do have that last ditch sort of out, that off ramp, in case you really need to scramble. So this is indeed very much an emergency teleport World Legacy's memory, because it's like if you're hit by Max C on your Crusadia normal summon, you can chain memory, special summon like purple or whatever, go into Morningstar, discard a mech that you hopefully have in hand, and you trade one draw for your opponent for a negate. And if the Mekk-Knight in your hand was indigo, then you're giving them a draw, but you set up the 2 negates. It's not the worst trade, although of course Max C just punishes no matter what. And Girsu dies to Imperm, well, activate memory, special summon purple from the deck, go to Morningstar. You have these plays, and hopefully you still have a card to discard, blah 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 blah. You do have these plays. Now of course we would all love if we could use memory and go into lib, right? So we don't lose a card, which is what Morningstar requires because it's so outdated. But it is what it is. We have to just work with what we have. These are scraps, so be it. And in the event that I don't actually have anything to discard, then my thinking is just that, well, if I do the memory play and I don't have anything to discard from Morningstar, I just sit on Morningstar, then I just bricked. And there's really no other card that I can think of, to substitute like World Legacy memory, like let's say these 2 slots here. Like which 2 cards can you put in here to sort of actually improve the consistency and prevent you from bricking, right? Like this is pretty much as good as it gets for an E-Tele for World Legacy, and I've been afraid of it for so long, but I think now because of Girsu just getting Imperm one too many times, I just put it in and I say, let's just work with the Xenolock and hopefully, it gives us a chance to survive and then win a few more games than we otherwise would. That's just my thinking. If I didn't have anything in this card, I bricked, I was screwed either way. Now in comparison, what changed from the original deck list from last month was I had 3 succession, right? Now in those cases where Girsu gets Imperm, blah blah blah, succession does nothing, right? If you get hit by Max C on Crusadia normal summon, you go into Magus, you give them 1 draw, and then you succession, you give them another draw. It really doesn't do anything. Now succession has always been for me a mid-range sort of thing. Obviously when you open a Crusadia and you get succession, you get straight into lib. But the problem with that is if you open a Crusadia and you use succession and you don't have a Mekk-Knight, you go into lib, you still don't get access to secret, so that board is just really nothing. So in the end I just sort of thought maybe I was wrong about succession. Maybe I cut it back down to 1 and I just have it as an on-demand search by lib. But then I use like memory to sort of be my actual E-Tele. That's just my whole thinking around experimenting with this, right? So succession cannot save me from a potentially turn-ending Imperm, but memory can. Memory might, if I have the hand for it. But it just gives you a fighting chance, that's what I'm saying. So I just felt like maybe you would try this out. And of course I did hit Master 1, although at this point, like after surviving, Rose Tenyi, Runic, Branded Sword Soul, Sprite, Tier, Pearly, Cash, like I've gone through all these formats now in Master Duel, and I've always hit Master 1. So no matter what deck I play, I'm pretty sure, no matter what list I play for this, I'm pretty sure I'll just hit Master 1 anyway with Mekk-Knight Crusadia at this point, right? Because it feels like we've already gone over the hump. This is like the peak. of power creep so far, at least, that we've seen. So, maybe it doesn't really matter that much that I'm now playing 3 memory instead of 3 600. Maybe, because either way, I think you just hit Master 1 with enough time. That's really the main factor. You just need to spend the time, in my opinion. But I just wanted to explain my thinking behind this. And I feel like, because I have just been so obsessed with E-Tele for so long. Honestly, I've tried even like in this sort of like just Mekk-Knight Crusadia hybrid, right? I've tried Unexpected Die with Mekk-Knight Avram, right? Because I'm so just hungry for that special summon, that bailout special summon, or the ability to at least just get two bodies on board freely without relying on the Mekk-Knight's column restriction. Without being constrained by the Mekk-Knight's column restriction, right? Just being able to get 2 bodies on the board. Unexpected Die. E-Tele. World Legacy's Memory. This is the E-Tele for Mekk-Knights. Pure Mekk-Knights have always played this at 3, I'm sure. So maybe this is an oversight on my part because I've never played Pure Mekk-Knights. I've always approached this from a Crusadia sort of perspective. So I've always viewed this as sort of like it's powerful enough to have to include, as compared to all the other World Legacy cards, but it's just not really that good for Crusadia variants. That's what I used to think. Now I think I'm coming around on this, and perhaps this at 3 is the way forward, just because of the E-Tele extension angle. Now I may be wrong, but that's how I'm going for now. So I also said, like, I think this is how meta and rogue decks compete and play through disruption. If you see Sprite, they have Sprite Starter, right? And Branded, obviously they have Poly and all that. I don't even know all those cards that they have, blah blah blah. And then now Sprite has like Gishki, Cashier has like Theosis, and then Scareclaw, which is often compared to Crusadia. They have like spells that just special summon for free, like just from the grave, from the deck, just special summoning out of every single pocket on their shirt, right? So we are such an outdated deck here. We don't have any of those tools. We don't have a field spell that we can search with our starter that then adds another monster that then adds a spell to special summon. We don't have any of that. So this E-Tele, I feel like this is how the good decks nowadays they play through disruption, right? They extend, because you can't always rely on getting like your cross out. Crusadia engine alone just cannot achieve this. Mekk-Knights can. Now I'm told in the Crusadia channel of the Master Duel Meta Discord that Liberomancer is a good engine for Crusadia as well. I haven't tried it, but basically Crusadia needs like these special summon extensions, right? Going second, of course, like we just have the Mekk-Knights do their thing, special summon in the columns, blue sky at 3, purple at 3. But going first, which is what I'm trying to do here, that's the problem, because you don't get the columns, you don't get blue sky to add. You're lucky to try and get Purple Nightfall into a column, and then you can only search Indigo. And like your options are a lot more limited going first with the Mekk-Knight monsters. So you rely on the Mekk-Knight back row, the Mekk-Knight spells instead. I think logically it makes sense, but we'll see how it goes. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know, because I really have just been so obsessed with this emergency teleport issue with Crusadia for many years now. And of course, we could play stuff like Sakitama and I don't know, what's the other one, like one-time passcode, that kind of thing that just special summons for free one card. But like, they are not engine cards, and they don't really help you get your engine going. They just like bam, put a body on board. What's the difference there from like putting a Jester Confidant on board first and then putting a Crusadia normal summon? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really a fan of non-engine extenders that way. I mean, unless it's an emergency teleport that worked with like Crusadia Maximus, right? That was my entire thinking, because Maximus Psychic level 4, it's like 1 level off. So I'm saying, like, if it's an emergency teleport that can get out a Maximus for free, then that's what I'm talking about. Now, obviously, as I said, I've tried like the actual emergency teleport with like Ghost Ogre, all this stuff. That really doesn't work for me either, because that's just like a Sakitama right now, or the one-time passcode, that kind of thing. It's just like one body. You might as well play Ascendant of Thunder and also just get a free body, but it doesn't really help that much. I could play Ascendant of Thunder here, sure, but compared to Memory that actually gets the engine going, get purple banish, get indigo, you get purple back on turn 3. those cards that I mentioned before, like normal Itali, Sakitama, Ascent of Thunder, all these free bodies, they don't do that. So the value of memory is still far greater than all of these like sort of free body extension cards. The only problem is the Xenolock. So I think memory improves consistency, but in a rather gimped way, right? It's like in practice, based on my climb, I feel like the Xenolock functions a lot more like a ceiling cap than an actual hindrance. So that's a big improvement for me. That's progress for me in how I view the card, because I'm always only turning to it as a last resort. I never open with it unless, of course, I bricked, right? Then when I brick, actually, if I have no like, if I have basically nothing and I have like memory and a bunch of hand traps and like maybe, you know, imperm, called by a cross out, whatever, I actually don't summon, and then I wait for I go to my opponent's turn. I try and survive with hopefully the disruption that I have in hand, and then I activate memory in the end phase and get purple and then banish and then work on turn 3. That's how I usually play it if I break like that, right? Because the way this deck list is, if you don't open anything other than memory, chances are it's going to be a hand trap, right? Or like some kind of disruption. So I'm just working with the numbers here. But yeah, you know, so I always turn the memory only as a last resort. I've tried my starter and then my starter gets thwarted, so then I need to use memory. So in that case, is it really a hindrance, the Xenolock? Or is it actually just a ceiling cap? It's like, here, I give you another chance to rescue your board, put up some semblance of a board. You just don't get that extra high ceiling of going to live, you know? Or even just summoning a Crusadia to follow up. You can't do any of that. You can only just go to Morningstar. So it caps the ceiling. But I don't actually think it's a hindrance now. I think it's an out card, right? So I don't have as much of a problem with it anymore, and I think this is okay so far, although we'll see how it goes. And if y'all have any more insight or experience with playing 3 memory in a hybrid deck like this, let me know. Because I know it works in pure Mekk-Knights, but I just don't know like Crusadia, you know. But so far I think it's my only chance. I need that Itali. Okay, hopefully I wasn't confusing there. You know, if you have any questions about what I just said, just ask in comments. So the other thing is, an important upside to this, if I don't need memory in the opening combo, let's say I open it, because I have 3, right? Chances are I open it. If I have Girsu and then like I'm not disrupted at all, I can set memory, and I can go into live and all that, and then I can set secret. So ideally, of course, I'm talking about like, let's say I have Girsu and purple, blah blah blah, and then you have Indigo Engrave with the secret set. So you have the normal board set up, but you also have this extra memory in hand, whereas this memory in the past might have been a succession, right? I can just set this memory, and then on turn 2 when my opponent plays, I get to secret, revive Indigo from the grave, 1 negate, Indigo shift, 2 negate, memory special summon purple from the deck, the 3rd negate with memory. So there's that. And then, because let's say on turn 1 you banish purple to get Indigo, on turn 2 you activate memory to special summon purple, and then you banish the 2nd purple and fetch like Girsu, for example. On turn 3 you get 2 purples returning. That immediately opens up Dingirsu. So Dingirsu suddenly has a lot more value in this list because of this, because of the added memories and the added sort of recursion with purple. And Dingirsu means Zeus, so that's pretty big, and that's something that memory uniquely provides. So that's why I think this is a pretty big deal. And I'm just saying all this, obviously everybody, you all probably actually knew this already. It's just that for me, as a Crusadia player, I've always been so afraid of going to 3 memory. I just thought, get bricked, you know, Xenolock myself, I just get bricked. But actually, as a bailout, I think it's decent, and it does more than I thought it would. So I'm pretty satisfied with it. I wouldn't say I'm happy, I wouldn't say I'm delighted. I wish there was no Xenolock, but it is what it is. So yeah, with the 2 purples return on turn 3, you can either just OTK or go into Dingirsu. You get a lot more bodies. It's just very good, and it helps close out games a lot more effectively than playing 3 succession ever did for me. So I'm just testing this out. I may revert next season. We'll see how it goes. Let me know if you have any suggestions for this. Yeah, it just feels like Crusadias and mechs just get bottlenecked really hard in the normal summons. So yeah, this is just my way of working around it. Okay, other changes. The main change here, as you can see, 2 red reboot. Wasn't there before. So I removed 1 Maximus and the Droll that I used to have here. Because as I said before, the imperm on Girsu is just way too painful, and I'm telling you, I'm just getting impermed on Girsu a lot more often this season than before. And Runic players are back in force. They've all crawled out of the woodwork with all their skill drains and Kaiser Colosseums and all that. If I'm able to get the Girsu off with Red Reboot, like stopping the imperm, then you know they set a card, right? I go into Lip, right? Because that's the normal Girsu combo. I can remove that set card with Lip anyway and go into, let's say, you know, Lip, special summon Crusadia under Lip, go into a second Lip if I really need, or go into Morningstar if I have a Mekk-Knight below Lip, you know, that kind of thing. And I can bounce the set back row. So actually, the drawback with Red Reboot going first is not as bad as I once feared, as I initially feared, because I remove with Lip, and I can remove it with Unicorn even, or access code can remove like back row as well, the back row that was set. So I feel like Red Reboot has the drawback. It's not great, it's not ideal, but it's not so bad. You can definitely work around it, and you Red Reboot the imperm to allow your Girsu to get off the combo and then go into Morningstar with double negate from Indigo. That's very valuable. Without the Red Reboot, your Girsu get imperm, you're finished. You're finished. You just have a Girsu, they just OTK you. So I feel like the risk is worth the reward with Red Reboot. I feel like the upside is worth chasing despite the obvious drawback where you have to just work around a little bit more, play around a little bit more. You do need an extender in hand in order to get the Lip bounce off, etc. But without Red Reboot, you don't even have a chance. That's what I'm saying. So that's the theme of this deck list, right? This revision. It's all about giving yourself a bit more of a chance with Memory as the E-Telly and with Red Reboot to stop imperm. It's all about protecting the combo. And I used to have Crusadia Power, if you remember, but obviously Power does nothing for Girsu. So in the end, it was just too much of a break. I took it out, obviously, I think. Yeah, so I think Red Reboot to protect the combo is great. And of course, going second into Lab, into Runic, priceless. So I think it's really worth playing at 2 now. Now, one thing I'll say is, if you look at this deck list, actually, you'll realize it looks a lot like Mekk-Knight. Now, I always built my decks following Sword Soul, actually. Because I look at Sword Soul and I'm like, Sword Soul and Tenyi, how the 2 archetypes work together. I try and mimic that. I used to follow the ratios as well for that, for Sword Soul, try and mimic a little bit. Now I feel like I'm starting to mimic Mekk-Knight. I got the triple small world, I got the single kaiju, I got the Veiler that they all have. Yeah, I have the memory, I guess my 3 memory is their 3 Signet mining, maybe. And then I feel like the ratios are very similar to Mekk-Knight. I got a double cross out, I got the single cross out, a double call by, triple imperm, and then they have they play 2 engine traps, right? They play Signet Conflict and Super Factorial. Well, this is my Super Factorial. So this is looking to me like a Mekk-Knight deck, surprisingly. And now, and of course, I gotta say, I keep looking at Mekk-Knight decks that I face, and they all have double Red Reboot, even though it's a go first deck, and I just use that as my reasoning to say, let me try putting double Red Reboot in. Now, they don't have to worry about imperm on circular, because they can just go into Alan Bershian, they can just go into that and just search Super Factorial, so they don't worry so much about it. So I'm assuming they play Red Reboot to go second, but going first, Red Reboot has also helped. So I'm just following that structure, and whether or not it's a good idea, we'll see, but it works for me this month. So the -1 Maximus, I used to have 2, does hurt consistency a little bit, but I feel like the double Red Reboot really just saves a lot of duels that otherwise you would just lose immediately to a single imperm. The alternative is to remove Veiler and put the second Maximus back in just for a bit more consistency. The downside is that you lose one of the best, if not the best, small world bridges in the deck. I think Veiler and Jizukiru are level in terms of small world usage, small world flexibility. And also Veiler is a hand trap, and it's a decent hand trap for counterplay when you lose the coin toss. And of course, if you win the coin toss and you open Valor and you just have Valor and a bunch of like blue, purple, indigo, you can normal summon Valor and go into Morningstar, blah blah blah. So there is still that utility with Valor. It's just whether or not you want that counterplay as a hand trap when you lose the coin toss, or if you want more consistency with Maximus at 2. I'm not so sure either, but you know, for me it's trade-offs, and I've gone with the Valor. You can probably tell that I tend to have the bare minimum Crusadias where possible, because the main deck Crusadias just don't give a lot of value. And then I added triple tactics. I think this was in place of Droll that I used to have. Or is it Crusadia Power? Okay, anyway, yeah. So Crusadia Power is gone, Droll is gone, triple tactics is in. Solid, as always. It's great for stealing a Rise Heart, and then you can go into Zeus. You can steal everything really. So I mean, you just steal like, yeah, okay, after you bait like their negate or whatever, you can steal. You know, if Noir is down to like less than 5 materials, you can steal, blah blah blah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a better pick than Droll in the last slot in this deck, just because it's also going first, right? If Girsu gets ashed, you can talent rip their card out of their hand. This is just a great card in general. So yeah. And Zeus is back here in my extra deck, obviously, because as I said, you can steal a Rise Heart and a Zeus, and also just the Runics around, so you want to have Zeus. I think it's a good option now again. And yeah, I mean this. Oh yeah, and I now have 2 Morningstar instead of 2 Reclusia. Now this is just a borderline play, really. Sometimes I fail to get the first Morningstar search off. Sometimes I am forced to go into Morningstar early without a mech in hand, and then just sort of pass and sit on it, and then they can't out it, hopefully. So I want that second Morningstar in my extra deck, just so I can actually go into it after when I'm more ready, and then get that search. Right? This is just like sort of like a mid-range game sort of thinking. It's grind game kind of thinking, but also just Morningstar sitting in the extra monster zone. Some people don't read it. You know, it can steal you some wins, and it's good. It's good in general. And of course now in the grind game, as I mentioned, you know, when you start spamming like memory and you get purple coming back, like yeah, being able to search memory with Morningstar is pretty good, especially when, you know, you'll quickly start to pile up with like Girsus in hand with the purple searches, right? For example, you can discard a Girsu and then like set a memory and then special summon a purple from the deck on your opponent's turn to negate, for an extra negate, that sort of play. So I think there's a lot more value in the second Morningstar, and I personally don't think that second Magus is really necessary. And the Kashtira players that I faced always banish Dingirsu or Zeus. Like they never even go for Astrum or XX Code. They just always go for Dingirsu and Zeus. I don't know why. So they'll never banish Magus. And if they do, then okay, fine, you know, whatever, just try and work around it somehow. But yeah, I feel like the second Morningstar is okay for me, but really it could be 2 Reclusia instead. I don't think it's a big difference. I just prefer it this way, and I don't really have a reason to go back, so you know, I'm pretty lazy to change things that work, so yeah. Okay, so this is it. How long has this been? 36 minutes. Alright, you know what? This was actually shorter than before, so you know, I consider this a win. This is the deck. It's pretty much the same. Check out MDM if you need anything. Sorry, check out MDM if you need the full write-up. Check out the network map if you need to check any, you know, the bridges and all that. But other than that, yeah, I think this is pretty much it. Rise Heart didn't change this deck too much. I think what happened was Rise Heart came and people started switching the hand traps for some reason, and so that led to me putting in Red Reboot for Imperm. I guess that's the main change with Rise Heart. Other than that, you know, it's pretty much the same. Now, I will say this to close. This is going first, as you know. I mean, you should know this, you know, after I've talked for like 36 minutes. But going second, I actually tried to start the season to try just OTK, Kaiju Crusadia OTK. didn't work. It didn't work. I don't know why people were saying that, we feast on this meta, because I'm not seeing it. Pearly is putting up quite routinely Noir plus UDF. So yeah, they're going to Noir and they're going to UDF. Or they're going to Noir and they're going to Assemble Nightingale and preventing the OTK. So Pearly is not really great for Crusadia Kaiju OTK. I don't know why people were saying that it is. Like, if you just Kaiju Crusadia, you Kaiju like one monster, these are multiple monster boards that we're dealing with now. I don't really see how Kaiju Crusadia is supposed to flourish. Now maybe I'm just so rusty from not playing that, just the blind second OTK like Kaiju Crusadia strategy for so long, but I'm not seeing how people are, getting great success with it in this current meta. I feel like going second is really weak again, because the best decks are at full consistency, and they're all multiple monster boards. And and then like how do you Kaiju like lab and OTK when they have like 3 back rows set? Yeah, I'm not seeing how like people are just like OTKing so easily. So I'm not a big fan of going second right now. That's why I've stuck with going first. But I will say that I have not tried sufficiently sort of a blind second board break mid-range, the one that I used to play with like evenly matched and all that stuff. I feel like evenly matched isn't great right now, although it could be. I just haven't seen people playing it, so I felt like maybe it wasn't worth me trying it, because I don't want to waste time testing. I want to just get this done, right? So like get the climb done. I don't want to spend like a month testing different lists and like trying to figure out what works. I just want to bang and then next month. So I don't know, maybe going second is still okay. I'm just saying that when I tried it, OTK did not work well. Mid-range, haven't tried enough to say. So yeah, let me know what your experience has been, and hopefully this helps. Alright, peace.